Hey, this is Grayson from Thriving with Tinnitus. In this week's video, I'm going to talk about how to speed up tinnitus habituation. So a couple of weeks ago, I made a video about whether or not you could speed it up. And in this week's video, we're actually going to go into detail about how I believe you can speed it up. So I discussed this a little in the last video, but when I hear people talk about habituation, a lot of times it sounds like they talk about it in a really passive way, like it just happens. But habituation really is, it's a result of neuroplasticity in our brain. It's a result of our brain rewiring and realizing tinnitus is not actually a threat, and realizing that we don't have to concentrate on it and focus on it and worry about it. And so there's actually strategies we can use to speed that up. Yeah, for most of us it's going to happen anyways if we just let time go by. I think it does happen with time, but why not use some strategies and tactics to actually habituate quicker, and find peace with tinnitus quicker. All right, so before we jump into this, click the link in the description below and download my quick Thrive guide. I put in it everything that I think you need to go from struggling with tinnitus and focusing on it, worrying about it, feeling really anxious about it, to thriving with tinnitus and living a good life despite having tinnitus, which I believe everybody with tinnitus can do. When I first got it, I thought it was a lifelong misery, a lifelong life of misery that I was gonna have. And frankly, after some time, I came to the point where, especially now, I still have tinnitus, and yeah, at times I notice it, and every once in a while it bugs me a little even, but most of the time, the great majority of the time, even if I notice it, it's just kind of there in the background and I just ignore it and go on with my day-to-day. And you can get there too. Click below and get that guide. All right, now let's jump into how to speed up tinnitus habituation. So there's a couple of aspects to this. If you're in a place where you just got tinnitus or you're struggling with it right now, the first thing we want to do is we want to stop the negative tinnitus feedback loop. And I'm going to talk about what that is. So basically, that's our brain going into fight or flight and deciding to focus on tinnitus and worry about it and go down a negative rabbit hole about, oh, is it louder? Is it quieter today? Or is it louder? Did I do something to make it worse? Is it gonna get worse? And all of those things. So basically, here's how that negative tinnitus feedback loop goes. If you just got tinnitus, you notice it. That's how it works in the beginning. But if you're a little further along and you're not always noticing it, the way that it works is you notice the tinnitus, okay? So you notice it. The second part is that causes some anxiety or distress within you, which is our natural response to tinnitus when we first get it, because it's a distressing thing. It does cause stress and anxiety in the beginning. Okay, so you notice it, that causes some stress or anxiety, and because of that, our brain hones in on it and continues to go down that path of anxiety and negative thoughts, and we do what's called rumination. We ruminate on it, which means we continue to play out scenarios about is it louder? Is it gonna get louder? Did I do something to make it worse? Did I eat something to make it worse? Did I take a medication that's gonna make it worse? Is it gonna get worse in the future? Is it gonna keep getting worse, for the rest of my life? Whatever, we go down that rabbit hole and there's a million thoughts there that could play out. But the point is it's really negative and it's really damaging because that just repeats over and over. The more we worry about it, the more we're triggered by it, and the more our brain focuses on it and tries to figure it out, and we just ruminate on it and continue in that negative spiral. So the first thing we have to do is we have to stop that. So here's how we're gonna do that. So we can't stop from noticing the tinnitus necessarily. We're gonna notice it even when we habituate to it. There's still gonna be moments when we notice it. So when you notice it, and then your brain starts to feel those negative thoughts, right there, stop. While you can't stop that first initial thought from occurring, you can stop the rumination and you can stop yourself from going down that spiral. And some strategies are just first off, create a plan. What are you gonna do when you get to that point? When you start to worry about it? Can you go out on your back patio and listen to the breeze in the trees, or listen to the ocean or the water, depending on where you live? Come up with a plan, something for you that brings you peace. Maybe it's listening to music, but stop that negative feedback loop and replace it with something that brings you a little bit of peace, a little bit of relief from it instead. So, because the more time we spend in that negative spiral, the more it's retraining our brain to worry about the tinnitus and focus on it and create all of those negative feelings that come with tinnitus. So step number one, we have to stop that, all right? Okay, so step number two is we wanna make peace with tinnitus. And so that's actually the main strategy here, apart from stopping the negative spiral, is to make peace with it. And that is the actual neuroplasticity that occurs. And there's a few strategies for that. But basically what's happening is we're rewiring our brain so that instead of those negative thoughts, we can actually have positive feelings while noticing our tinnitus, while in the presence of our tinnitus. So the way that we do that is, there's a few ways, but a couple of good ways are meditation, and that is basically you get in a place where you can actually notice the tinnitus. We're not going to totally tune it out or totally ignore it, but we're going to notice it and then meditate while in the presence of it. And you could do this with some light white noise in the background, so it's not just the tinnitus, because obviously it's a little louder than. So especially in the beginning, if you need some light white noise, that's fine. But just get where you can kind of notice the tinnitus and then meditate and let your body feel peace while noticing the tinnitus. And that's going to teach your brain that, hey, this tinnitus, it's not actually that bad. It's not doing us any harm. And in fact, I can feel peace in my body and I can have peace while noticing the tinnitus. All right. And then so beyond that is basically positive reframing. And so what that is it's not just feeling peace while experiencing the tinnitus, but it's actually reframing the tinnitus in a positive way. All right, and we don't want to do that too soon, because tinnitus, it really is unfortunate and it is a hard thing to live with. So we do want to take that time, especially if you're somebody who just got tinnitus, to really kind of grieve it. It is a process. But after a bit, we actually do want to try to reframe that and think, how can we reframe in our brain tinnitus as a positive thing, so that not only can we rewire our brain to experience peace with tinnitus, but actually experience some positive emotion with it. And so for me, I did that a couple of ways. One way was, I'm a person of faith, I'm a Christian, and so one way was I just prayed, and I did this by accident, actually. I stumbled into this, but a few times I was just like, as I was praying, I was just like, thank you for the tinnitus. It's made me a stronger person. Despite it being a hard thing to deal with, it's made me a stronger person. It's taught me that I can do hard things. I can persevere through some tough stuff, and keep going and keep living a good life and keep being there and showing up with my family and friends and at my work and all that. So in that way, it's affirmed me in some ways that I'm a strong person and I can deal with it. Even if it does get worse, I know that I can deal with it and I can continue to have a full and happy life despite having tinnitus. So another way to positively reframe it, and there's a ton of ways you can come up with your own, but just a few examples that have worked for me. Another way is that I've taken it and I've turned it and I've started making these videos and stuff to try to help other people with tinnitus. So it's not just a negative thing, but I'm actually going to help other people, and I'm going to bring other people peace and teach them how to live a good life with tinnitus, because it's possible for every single one of us. You need to believe that. Okay, so again, let's go back over those. So we to retrain our brain to habituate faster to tinnitus, a couple of things. So first, we have to stop the tinnitus feedback loop. And what that looks like is we notice the tinnitus, we have a negative thought or feeling toward it. At that point, we stop. We don't continue going down the negative trail. Don't do that. Instead, hopefully you can get to the point where you can just stop it and that's it, just kind of cold turkey. Like, I'm not going down that path. But in the beginning, if you need to, make a plan and do something at that point that's going to bring you peace and help you not focus on the tinnitus. And that could be through, again, just doing something that brings you joy or something that helps you forget about the tinnitus for a few moments, whatever. But we have to stop the negative tinnitus feedback loop. And the second thing that we need to do to help our brains kind of retrain and habituate quicker to tinnitus is we have to make peace with the tinnitus. And again, a couple of strategies there is we're going to meditate while listening to the tinnitus, while not necessarily directing our attention to it, but just while it's there, while in the presence of the tinnitus, we're going to meditate, and so we can experience peace and teach our brain and our bodies that we can experience peace while in the presence of the tinnitus. And the other way is positively reframing tinnitus so that we can actually have some positive emotion around tinnitus. All right, so if you found this helpful, click subscribe below. I'm gonna make more videos like this. And listen, I know there's doctors out there that make videos and stuff, but I'm actually somebody with tinnitus who's just breaking down what's helped me and how it makes sense to me. So again, follow along if you want to hear from somebody who has experience here and who genuinely wants to see you get better. And I believe you can live a good life with tinnitus. So if you want to learn to do that, keep following along and click subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks.